so right now we are typing in a series of numbers, all right, that are being fed into the radius for the circle. All right, we did it two ways. One, we did it with a number slider. We saw that all the circles were the same. Then we took a panel and turned off multi-line text and created our own list, 0 through 4 index values. And just for future reference, the number of where the values are located are called the index values. Okay, so 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 in this particular case are all index values. Okay? Hang on a sec. Let me check something. Okay, so the next thing that I want to do is I want to try and feed a random pattern of numbers into the computer so that all of the circles across this whole thing are going to be different. Okay? So I'm going to get rid of this number panel, and so I'm going to actually disconnect it. Okay, that puts them all back. And so I think I originally had so just for future reference, I'm going to keep my number slider and keep the panel that I fed it in with, even if they're disconnected. And I'll label these things as two previous ways of feeding the circle, the circle radius. Okay? So, but right now what we want is we want to try and create a randomized pattern of circles on each of the numbers or each of the intersections. So the panel that we're going to use next is under Sets. Okay, so if you look at the Sets tab and then look for the Sequence panel. All right, Sequence, and under that at the very bottom is an interesting little logo. Do you guys notice what that logo is? I'm sorry?
Schrodinger's cat. Schrodinger's cat.
Well, I don't know about Schrodinger's cat, but it's a cat. Why a cat for random?
Because a cat's random.
Cats are rather random. They are unpredictable, right? So, at any rate, so there it is. We've got the random value, and once again, same thing. I'm going to ask you to understand and draw a sketch of the random component. Okay? So draw a sketch of the random component. I'm going to pause this while you guys do that, and I want you to tell me what each of the inputs and what the output is giving, okay, as well as the default values that are in each of the inputs. So the top value stands for range. So remember when you guys were in math class and they were talking about range and domain, and you guys were like, where in God's green earth am I ever going to use this? Well, you're taking the grasshopper class, so now you have a place to use range and domain. Other than that, you probably didn't have much use for it. Okay, so the R stands for range. All right, the N stands for the number of random numbers that you want to generate. So do you want to generate 1, 2, 20, 5? Okay, and then finally, the last one is the seed value. Seed value, think of it as a shaker for dice. Okay, so every time you shake dice inside of a shaker and you spill them out, it gives you a new set of numbers, right? So the seed value is a number slider that you move across, and it gives you a different set of numbers each time that you feed a different number into the random number generator. Okay? So what we need to do is set up a domain or set up a range for the random number generator. Okay? So what we're going to do next is we need to establish a domain for this thing, or a range, and that's going to be under Math, and it has its own tab called Domain. All right, and what we want to do is to construct a domain. All right, and I'm going to move these back because we'll need a little bit of room here for this. All right, so the domain, if you look at constructing a domain, it's got two inputs, an A and a B, right? So start point and end point. All right, and then it's got one output, which is the integer value that comes out of it. So if we feed this into here, right? Or actually, hold on. Before I do that, I'm going to Control Z, and I'm going to set a panel here, params, and I'm going to feed the random number generator into the panel. Okay? So note the value, and we're all going to get the same value because we're using the same component. All right? So there is the number that's coming out, 0.771094. Okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the domain and I'm going to feed it into, actually no, yeah, I'm going to feed that into the random number generator. And since the domain is set to the default values, there's no change. Okay, and I believe the default values are 1, 0, and 1. So the range is from 0 to 1. So if we want to, we can adjust the domain. So let's go a little bit, let's go from 0 to 1.5. Okay? So to do that, I'm going to use another number panel and feed the number panel into the A and the B. All right? So drop a panel here, squeeze it down, double click it, and give it a value of, I'm going to try 0. Remember, do not put a enter on the end of it. Notice that that didn't change because 0 is the default value of A. So after that, I'm going to go to 1.5. Now that I've set a new domain range, right, notice that the number jumped. Okay? All right, so the next thing that we want to do is we want to give it a number slider. So I'm going to grab one of these number sliders right here. Actually, I'll just start a new one. So I'm going to drop a new number slider that goes from 1 to 50. So that will generate 50 numbers as I slide it across. All right, so I plug that in, and notice that at 1, it's giving me a 0.373003. And as I slide this across, it just randomly creates a series of numbers. Now it is formulaic, so if we're all using the same range and we're using the same components, the numbers that we're going to get are the same. Okay, does that make sense?
Does that mean that the number that we started with the random, that's default?
That is the default value, 0.07 something or other. All right, I'm going to pause this. So resuming this thing, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this random number generator, and what the purpose in doing this whole thing was to get a different radius. So I'm going to take and hold the shift key down and feed that into radius. All right, and it doesn't look very random to me, does it? They're all the same. But as I move this thing across, they jump all over the place. Now, the reason that they're all the same is because its output is one number. So let's try feeding it with a value corresponding to the number of cells that we have to create. So that number is 5, right? So we'll take one of these components, switch it to 5, which it stands for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Well, actually, we'll try 6. Let's start with 4. All right, we'll start with 4. So we'll feed the 4 into the number, and you can see that it's randomizing the placement of the circles and the size of the circles. I think what I'm going to do is switch it to 5. And what I'll do is I'm going to reduce the size of the numbers so that they're not as visible. And now you can see that you've got, as you move the seed thing across, you can create a number of different sort of sequences from that one value. Okay? All right, so I'm going to stop the video at this point because it's getting a little bit long. All right, and I think what I'm going to have you guys do is continue making logical notations about everything that's been done on this particular definition. Okay?